How do I become a better leader? What kinds of things do I need to be doing in my own personal life to elevate my leadership game? If you have looked at any elite athlete on a field of endeavor, every elite athlete has a coach. That coach, we are, in many instances, deeply experienced, much more deeply experienced than the people that we coach. Hey folks, this is MK Palmore. Welcome to Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. Many of you were with me on the early parts of this journey. I had an opportunity to have a podcast called The Leadership Student on ITSP Magazine. I want to thank that team for all of the hard work that they did to help me get that idea off the ground and to help me launch it and get it out into the zeitgeist, so to speak. But we are coming back new, improved, and of course, amplified, as you hear in the title. Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast, hosted by myself, MK Palmore. What's new? We're really going to jump in and get to the heart of these leadership discussions as quickly as we possibly can. Your time is valuable. I know it. I have limited time myself, limited bandwidth, but I make time for the things I'm passionate about. So in all likelihood, you are listening to this podcast as you're commuting. You're listening to this podcast when you have a free 20 or 30 minutes in between projects that you're doing. You're listening to it when you could be doing something else. And I truly appreciate you taking time to listen in to try and extract information that you think might be helpful to you. And so we're going to get right into it with our guest as quickly as we possibly can. What are we bringing back that we did in the first iteration of this? High quality guest. We were lucky. During the first iteration of the Leadership Student, I brought in a number of CEOs, if you'll recall. We're going to continue in that vein, bringing in CEOs, folks who have led at high levels of organizations where they work. But we're also going to be bringing in entrepreneurs and other high-impact leaders, folks who have just been on really, really sticky and sometimes hard journeys as it relates to leadership. And we're going to try as best we can to really get down to the nuggets and morsels of information that they have within the stories they now hold within their own personal journeys and get them out to you as quickly as we possibly can. What we're going to continue to concentrate on is you as the target audience here. Anyone who is out there in the public or private sector who is just wondering for themselves, how do I become a better leader? What kinds of things do I need to be doing in my own personal life to elevate my leadership game? Hopefully, Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast can be part of that exercise and journey for you. I have found in my own leadership journey that reading books, listening to stories of other leaders, having mentoring sessions with folks who have had much deeper leadership experiences than my own have always been extremely valuable to me. It's not a one-for-one swap. I don't take everything that they say or everything that I read and then apply it to my own life. But I guarantee you there are opportunities for you to extract, learn, and then amplify those learnings and put them into practice in your own lives. So that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to bring in and identify exciting guests, bring them into the studio, have these conversations with them, get directly into the business of leadership, and then get that out to you as quickly as possible. Many of my guests are authors leading in the field for which they have been identified and brought into the studio to amplify. And if you want to hear about, their childhood, their backgrounds, things like that, things that I covered in the first season of The Leadership Student, please, during every episode, I'll make sure that they identify where you can find that information, where you can find those readings so you can really get down into the heart of what help them to develop as individuals. But for the course of the Leadership Student podcast, or Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast, we're really going to jump right into the leadership stories right off the top. I have a number of topics that I intend to cover. We have guests lined up for the next several episodes. We've got some in the bank, if you will, that we will release shortly after this initial episode. But what we want to do is we want to get these stories out as quickly as we possibly can so that you can elevate your own game. And that, at the end of the day, is what it's about. I said at the top of this that if you recall, The original Leadership Student was sponsored and engineered by the team at ITSP Magazine. I want to thank them for all of the support and effort that they gave to helping me get this idea off the ground initially. But moving forward, every episode of Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast, will be sponsored by Apogee Global RMS. What is Apogee Global? Apogee Global is an endeavor that I started more than a year ago. It is a boutique consulting firm that is engaged in helping people elevate their performance in the field of leadership. I have a number of leadership consultants attached to Apogee, many of them still hanging up their own shingle, running their own shops, but mostly what you will find is a group of dedicated leadership coaches and folks with deep leadership experience who are ready to engage in either one-on-one coaching, team dynamics, team development, all aspects of leadership in the corporate environment. And many of these folks, as you'll notice, share very similar things to the background that I have. Most of them are veterans of the U.S. military. Many of them, like myself, attended one of the nation's U.S. service academies. We all, I think, bring a unique experience to the table, but I have found in my own journey as it relates to leadership that my trust in developing leaders started in my own journey in the U.S. military. And so you will find the vast majority of the consultants associated with Apogee Global, again, have backgrounds very similar to my own, but I think that they bring all a variety of unique experiences because, as you know, veterans go off in many different directions after their time in service and do some amazing things in the corporate side of the house. As you know, if you followed me on any social media platforms, I am a continual advocate for Veterans Affairs, highly engaged in the veteran community, and I have shown that commitment time and again through nonprofit efforts that I've engaged in. I was on the board of directors for the Marines Memorial Association here in the Bay Area for many years, which was a way for me to give back to the veteran community, and I try as best I can to help veterans get pointed in the right direction as it relates to breaking into the technology space. The technology space was a key component of the first iteration of the Leadership Student. We're going to spread our wings a bit. As you well know, leadership is an evergreen topic. Leadership is being practiced at every level, whether it be public or private sector, across every business vertical that there is in existence. Somewhere there's someone at a manager level waiting for an opportunity to get tapped on the shoulder so that they can lead at the next level. Somewhere buried deep in the bowels of a corporation, tech or otherwise, is someone just waiting for that first opportunity to be tapped on the shoulder and given the opportunity to actually lead a team in an endeavor that has some importance to that organization. And there are folks who have led at very high levels who are waiting for that opportunity to step into the ranks of the chief operating officer or chief executive officer and everything in between. Because leadership, as I stated, not only is it evergreen, but it's impactful at every level of your career. These are the things that we're going to try and amplify during the course of these conversations. What we promise to do is bring you guests that you're interested in hearing from and about in terms of their leadership journeys. And again, we're going to try and get to the information as quickly as we possibly can so that you can maximize your time in and out of these podcasts. I'm sure you got them stacked up, probably from one to five or 5 to 10 podcasts that you try and engage in and listen to. We're going to try and make sure we get you something of value as quickly as we possibly can. I mentioned Apogee Global as the sponsor for these upcoming episodes of Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. And people are asking all the time, why someone would turn to a company to develop their leadership skills. Why turn to a coach? Well, my question back to you is, if you have looked at any elite athlete on a field of endeavor, every elite athlete has a coach. That coach can't do a fraction of what that athlete can do, but they provide a steady hand on the wheel. They amplify blind spots for their athletes so that they can identify the areas that they need to work on so that they can, again, elevate their game to the next level. And that's exactly what coaches do. We are, in many instances, deeply experienced, much more deeply experienced than the people that we coach. But we also, sometimes you need a third party to come in, identify key areas that you need to work on, and give you a sense of how it is that you may show up in the spaces for which you are operating in, just so that you have it as a tool. So our responsibility as coaches is to provide you with the tools necessary to get you to your best and highest level of operation as a leader in whatever environment you happen to be in. Is that worth your time, effort, and potentially money? Absolutely, because that performance impacts the trajectory of your careers. I get approached all of the time by people who have not been tapped on the shoulder, who are waiting and believe that they have all of the elements necessary to take them to the next level and be leaders, but yet they're not getting the opportunities presented to them. There are reasons for that. And that is what a coach can help you to identify and amplify. I will bring in competitors in the industry. Some of the folks that you'll find in the leadership student consulting group are actually people who have their own shops and take somewhat different approaches to leadership. But because of the fact that the vast majority of us are, again, veterans, I will tell you that the core principles of leadership we happen to align on, and that is, of course, the starting point where we start everyone. The self-evaluation process. Understand through assessments who you are when you enter the room. Understand what your blind spots may be, and then we build out programs to help you identify how to build upon what it is that you know so that you can be better in your interactions. That's part of what we're going to be bringing you. Obviously, some of those lessons we'll extract from the guests that we have, but really the idea behind this podcast has always been, from my own vantage point, I find conversations about leadership to be infinitely interesting. I wanted to share those with you, and so we will continue with that as our North Star in terms of what we bring to you day in and day out, week to week, however many episodes it is that we decide to pursue here. I've got a new engineering team on board, excellent engineers with great experience, as did the other team, but great experience in terms of what it takes to put a podcast together. And so from time to time, you may hear those folks join in on some of the conversations, or at least join in the studio as we're having conversations with some of the guests, because the idea here is that I may be pretty good at interviewing folks and getting information out of them, but sometimes maybe we'll bring in some guest speakers, some others that can help to facilitate some of these conversations as well. So we're going to be doing things a little differently here. You'll still hear from and see really great guests, but you're also going to see some differences in terms of how we approach getting these stories to you and the methodology that we use to do that. Amplified's coming your way. Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. Again, we've got a few episodes in the can already. This is meant to be an introduction or a reintroduction of the leadership student as a concept. As many of you know, I not only lead an organization that spends its time helping people become better leaders, but I also do a newsletter on LinkedIn and am frequently looking for very specific leadership tools and concepts to bring to the audience that has gotten used to some of the content that I've put on social media, because our goal, again, is to get you to the highest level that you can possibly get to. So I hope that you're still with me. I know that we've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but I needed that time to really get into the weeds of exactly what it is that I wanted to do with this content and this time that I'm asking you to take listening to me and our guests. What's coming at you soon will be some fantastic episodes, some fantastic interviews, and we hope that you will consistently listen in, get the morsels that you need, and then push these podcasts off to your friends and colleagues so that they can get that same information as well. So like, listen, and share as frequently as you possibly can. And sit back and join us on this learning journey. As many of you know, one of the monikers I like to go by is the Leadership Student, and that means quite simply that I'm always in learning mode. I hope you will be as well. Listen in to Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. We can't wait to bring you this season's guest and the interviews that we have. We'll see you on the landscape.
Thank you for listening to Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. If you're ready to elevate your personal leadership and drive your team's success, connect with Apogee Global RMS for custom coaching and development solutions. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of impactful personal leadership strategies. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and empowering those around you. Together, we'll amplify your success